Okay, so we have a keynote session, the second one, coming up right about now. And the topic is elevating the African women in tech. I'm not hearing you scream. Wait, who are the African women in tech? Who are the African women in tech? Who do we want to elevate? So when I say elevating African women in tech, I'm not hearing your voice. Why? So, elevating African women in tech, yeah? Who? SEA Queens! SEA Queens! So for this second keynote, we have Ashley Immanuel. Bring it up, bring out the fire, bring out the ginger. Yeah. I'm feeling you. Yeah, so Ashley Immanuel, you will keep clapping until she gets on the stage, until I handle this mic over. Ashley Immanuel is a co-founder and the chief operating officer of Semicolon, a company that is solving the problem of unemployment in Africa by building tech-focused talent and businesses. Ashley coordinates Semicolon's approach to delivering innovative solutions related to education, tech management, and venture building with so much joy. Like a queen that you are, ladies, make welcome Ashley Immanuel.
All right, thank you. Good afternoon. Good afternoon, everybody. Ekason. Sorry, I don't know the other languages yet, but you'll teach me, Abby. All right. So thank you very much. It is a pleasure to be here. I really love the energy in this room, which each and every one of us is contributing to. So it's a real joy. Wonderful way to spend a Saturday. So first of all, I would like to extend sincere gratitude to the organizers of this event and to each and every one of you. Also, everybody else who's spoken this morning who's been amazing, right? So I think it has been a great energy and we'll continue it. All right, if you could help me pull up the slides, please, or advance to the next slide. Oh, I think you'll skip the game for me and go to my own. The next one. Okay, they've told me the clicker is not working, so you'll have to bear with me. You have my own slides. Okay, so while they're pulling up the slides, I'm going to say a little bit. I'll just introduce myself. So thank you very much for the introduction. Semicolon Africa, as the moderator mentioned, is solving the problem of youth unemployment in Africa. Next slide. Oh, thank you. Thank you. By building tech-focused talent and businesses, among other things. Actually, hold on. I'm going to try a teacher technique. If you can hear me, clap once. If you can hear me, clap twice. If you can hear me, clap 3 times. If you can hear me, clap 5 times. Okay, I think we're together now. So, we are building tech-focused talent in businesses. One of the things that we do is train software engineers through an intensive 1-year program. You can see some of our great data. 98% of our people are employed or economically engaged soon after they graduate. And we've contributed over ₦1 billion to the economy since our graduates have, since they began graduating in 2020. So on the next slide, we are very deliberate about putting gender into our strategy in Semicolon, and we have a Semicolon, oh, sorry, I forgot I have the clicker now. We have a Semicolon Women in Tech program. Thank you. Which was designed because we know that women are significantly underrepresented in tech. And we have some representatives from our Semicolon Women in Tech program here. All right. So, first things first, I need to ask you a question. Is this event necessary? Was anybody here, when you were preparing to come here and you were talking to people, was anybody here asked, why do you have an event for women only? Raise up your hand if you were. Was anybody asked, what about the He Code Africa Summit? Right? So I think that we're not everybody seems to agree on some fundamental things. Right? And so today, as I was thinking about coming here, I thought, let's just get on the same page about those things, and then we can figure out what we're going to do. And I think the first question we don't all agree on, maybe in this room, but maybe not outside this room, is do women face barriers that men, on average, do not face? And then number two is, if they do, how do we address those barriers? So I'm going to put forth a few points starting from the beginning here, and then we can get to the addressing. Okay, and I'll ask you to try extra hard to be quiet if they're sharing food while I'm speaking. So the first point I think we need to align on is that sexism exists. Do we agree to this? Okay, and by sexism, what do I mean? I mean that there is prejudice, stereotyping, and discrimination against women solely based on the fact that they are women. It exists around the world, it exists in Africa, it exists in Nigeria. And how do we know this? All of the data tell us this, right? So we have gender gaps in education. Boys are more likely to complete primary school, right? We have gender gaps in employment, in legal protection, in political representation. How many female governors do we have right now in Nigeria? None, right? We have gender gaps in financial inclusion, in digital inclusion. Violence against women is still acceptable, right? The latest survey in Nigeria showed that 21% of men and 28% of women said it's acceptable for a husband to beat his wife in certain circumstances, like if she burns the food, if she goes out without his permission, or if she refuses to sleep with him, right? So sexism exists, and this is the evidence that shows us, right? In this context, women are less likely than men to start a career in tech, to rise into positions of leadership in tech careers, or to successfully found tech, to become successful tech founders. And so let's unpack this a bit further, right? How does this come about? First of all, from a young age, we as women are socialized to prioritize marriage and family over career, right? That expectation is built into us from day one. So we'll give an example. Geminat, from one of our earliest cohorts, was asked to go and get married instead of enrolling in semicolon. Fortunately, she came to us. She graduated a couple years ago, and she's killing it in her career, right? And guess what? She can still get married. Okay, women are less likely to have agency. What do I mean by agency? It means the control over their own decisions and their own lives, right? So we see many, many women who have spent hours investing in applying to semicolon. They come to our building, they come to info session, they do interview, they make all of their plans. 2 days before they're meant to resume, they call us and say, I'm sorry, I can't come again. My husband said I can't enroll. My parents said I can't enroll. My uncle said I can't enroll. The ones who still come despite not receiving that permission, maybe their family doesn't provide them the financial support they need. Maybe one woman said she can't go home, she's grounded at home. If she goes home, they'll lock her in her room, right? We know that women are less likely to have access to the education required to succeed in tech. We have gender gaps in education. Some families are still less likely to invest in educating a girl than they are to invest in the boy in the same household, right? Especially at higher levels of education, university, specialized programs like semicolon. We know that because of social norms, women typically are responsible for the majority of our unpaid domestic and care work. Okay, so all of us here, in the households you live in, right? You might be living with parents, you may be living with friends, you may be married and living with husband and children. But in your household, who's in a household in which the men do the same or more of the domestic work? Cooking, cleaning, caregiving. Okay, I see maybe six hands, okay? Who is in a household in which the women do more of the domestic work? Okay, right? And the young girls are also putting up their hands, right? So we know that if you have twins, now we're gisting about that one. So if you have twins in a household, boy and girl, same age, same family, they both want to enter tech. Let's say they're teenagers. The girl will come home from school. The parents ask her to go help and cook, right? She's helping with cleaning. She's taking care of the younger siblings. What's the boy doing? He's coding, right? So the boy has more time to be coding, to be studying. He'll pull ahead, right? When the woman is married, after she leaves work and spends 2 hours in Lagos traffic, what is she going to face? She's going to take care of the household, cook for everybody, clean, wake up at 5 a.m. the next morning to get the baby ready and do it again, right? What else? Okay, networks. Our social networks are very highly gendered. When you go to a party in Nigeria, you may see the women are here and the men are here. Have we ever seen that? Okay. When I go to a bar or a restaurant after work, I mostly see men, right? I mostly see groups of men talking to each other. The women are at home doing all of that unpaid domestic work, right? And this is the place. These are the conversations in which information is shared. These are the places where connections are made. These are the places where deals are done, right? Where companies are founded. What else? Odun spoke about bias, right? She spoke about conscious and unconscious bias. All of us do this. Men and women do this. We were trained to do this. But we tend to unconsciously see men as leaders, right? Think about a stereotypical CEO or MD and how you describe that person. You might say powerful, brave, assertive, dominant, right? Are these stereotypically more male or female? It's more male, right? So even if they don't intend to, people who are hiring, who are promoting, when they see a man and a woman, they may just think the man is inherently more of a leader because of these unconscious biases. The speaker before our break spoke about imposter syndrome, right? So she's defined it for us. We know that if a woman looks at a job description, she sees 10 requirements. She meets 8. She doesn't have the 2. She may not apply for that job, right? She'll conclude, okay, this one I'm not qualified. If a man sees that same job description, he only has 8, will he apply? He's more likely, not every man, we can't say every time, but he's more likely to apply. In fact, maybe he only has 5, he'll still apply. My own opinion is nobody has all of the skills and expertise and experience required to succeed in every job. Even me too, I don't have everything I want to have, right? I actually think instead of talking about women having imposter syndrome, maybe we should talk about men having overconfidence syndrome, right? And it's not all men, though. There are plenty men I know who have imposter syndrome as well. But there are some people who are excessively confident, and we see that women tend to be slightly less confident and men more so. Okay, so what do we do, right? We're a bit depressed. We've seen all the problems. Where do we want to go? Here's my vision. You can tell me if you agree. My vision is, today, there's a little girl born in Kano, rural Kano, right? Today, there will also be a little boy born in Silicon Valley, in California, in the United States, in the neighborhood where I grew up. My vision is that the little girl born in rural Kano and the little boy born in Silicon Valley will have the exact same opportunities to become successful tech founders. Right? So, data suggests, though, if we continue at our current trajectory, continue along the same path, we will not have gender equality in Africa until next century. It's after the year 2100. I don't even know when we're going to have equality between Kano and California, right? But that's a whole different animal, right? So we need to be impatient. We have to do things differently. All humans should have the same opportunities, and we cannot rest until we've achieved that. So we know that those who face barriers will require a little bit of extra lifting. We'll need to be deliberate about elevating them. So how do we do that? What can we do? Number one, we need to understand the problem. When I started, I asked you, are people saying, what about He Code Africa, right? We don't all understand the problem that we're facing. So for each of these recommendations, I'm going to list a few very specific things that people in this room can do today or this week to make it a bit more direct, right? We know sexism, we're immersed in it, but we don't always notice it. And sometimes we just need to educate ourselves and those around us in terms of what's happening. What can we do about that? We can study, we can read books, we can listen to podcasts. Last week I had the pleasure of hearing Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie speak. She's one of my favorite authors, but she's also written and spoken on this topic of sexism. Go watch her 20-minute TED Talk. Read her book, We Should All Be Feminists. Follow some others, right? And then we can start a conversation with people in our community. Okay, once we understand the problem, we need to address it. We need to address the root cause, right? So we don't want to just be putting Band-Aids here and there. We need to address sexism itself, right? In Semicolon, we teach design thinking, and one of the things we teach people to do as design thinkers is ask why 5 times to get to the root cause of a problem, right? So we can start by asking why. When I am in a meeting full of men, and the one other woman is asked to take notes, I ask why, right? When I'm in a room, an investor event, and there is only one woman, one female investor there in a room full of men, I ask why. When somebody tells me he won't recommend his sister to come to Semicolon to train to be a software engineer because, quote, women tend to be more confused about what they want, I ask him why, right? We can ask our policymakers, why are there still blatantly sexist laws on our books? We can ask the people in government why, as one of the panels pointed out, even the laws that protect women are not enforced today, right? We need to start by asking why, and then we start to ask ourselves, what do we need to do, and how do we organize ourselves to do those things? I think we also need to refuse to accept culture as an excuse for bad behavior, right? Has anyone else ever questioned something and then they just tell you, but this is our culture now? So me, you can tell I didn't grow up here, Abby. So I say things and they say, but you just don't understand. You don't understand, it's African culture. It's okay, I understand. As my husband's culture says, ejekashe, biwanshe, kobale ri boshenri. And what does that mean? You're all translating for each other. What does that mean? That means let us do as they have always done, so it can be as it has always been. But do we want things to always be exactly as they have always been? No. Okay, we're innovators. By definition, the tech sector, we are innovators. We're creating change, right? We can respect the culture we came from. We can retain the good parts and honor those parts while refusing to accept misogyny. Okay, but that's addressing sexism, and we know that won't be done tomorrow. So until there's no more sexism in the world, what are some other things that we can do? There are some actions we can take to start to correct the imbalances that still exist. Okay, number one, we can create some networking spaces and we can collaborate. So, back to my original question, do I think that this event is necessary? My answer is yes, right? This is a space for learning, for discussion, but also for networking and driving collaboration. How many people here are either tech founders, running your own business, or you want to run your own business in the future? Okay. So for those of us running businesses, we also need to really think about collaboration because we're building together. At Semicolon, I actually don't think we have competitors. Right? And I'm not saying that just because I think we do things better than other companies. There are some companies who do some of the things, something similar to some of the things that we do. But I don't want 100% of a very small pie, right? I want that pie, which is the impact and the value, to be enormous. The work is plenty, and we need to work together to actually address those challenges. Number two, we need to invest in the next generation of female tech talent. And I'm so happy to see some of them up front here taking notes, right? from all different ages. Modeling some very good listening behavior, if I might add. So, as Odum mentioned, the leaders of tomorrow are the young women that we're employing and building up and training today. Programs like Semicolon, right? So something actionable you can do. Get yourself skills. We need to invest beyond 6-week online training. Those things can be valuable and important, but we also need to produce proper software engineers, and that's a lot of work and requires a lot of investment. So we need a variety of programs, and we need to build those out. We also need to mentor, and Odun spoke about, we say mentor, 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 but you need to fund women as well, right? So it's true. We need to go beyond mentorship and talk about sponsorship. What do I mean by sponsorship? I mean, you don't just advise that woman, you advocate for her. You lift her up, you recommend her, right? You put her in a position, or you fund her, right? you fund her business. Young women here, you can do many things. Even if you're not ready to mentor, you can learn more about mentorship. You can create a peer support group. There are many things that we can start to do. Okay, we need to design with women in mind. Several people raised their hands when I asked who's running a business or wants to do it in the future. When we build businesses, we need to think about gender from day one. And there are some tools, like the UN Women Empowerment Principles, that are wonderful tools we can use to create gender action plans and do this. The support is there. We can sign on to some of those structures. For those of us who are working in a company, maybe you're building products, you're building solutions. Every single thing you build, you need to think about gender. We need to be deliberate in designing for women. And then last, we need to shift the narrative about African women in tech, right? So it's great that today we also have storytellers, including some in the front row here, right? who are telling these important stories. We need to, every single young woman in Africa today needs to understand that a career in tech exists and that she can have one, right? every single decision maker or influencer that is going to come into her life, her parents, her uncles, her boyfriends, her husband, her pastors, her imam, whoever it is, right? All of those people also need to understand that a career in tech may be the most significant opportunity for her to significantly improve her lives, and needs to support her in attaining that. And one thing that we can all do here today is tell your own story. So go on social media, be honest. If you're willing to, be a bit vulnerable. Share what are the challenges you faced before. Explain to those who do not understand why you faced some of those challenges specifically because you're a woman, right? Tell that story to the people who think barriers don't exist. But then also, tell the story of what you've accomplished, right? We need to highlight the success stories so that others know that it is possible. Because I talked about stories, I'll just share a few very quickly. These are the things that inspire me every day. I spoke about Geminat already. She wasn't working before the training. Now, as I mentioned, she's killing it in her career. Bemi had a degree in computer science, had education in computer science, but was working as a tailor, right? Because she hadn't been trained in the skills she needed for the market. After she came to Semicolon, now she started working for us. She's been promoted. She's a team lead. Also doing excellently well, and of course is now actually making real money. Fumi also studied computer science. She was braiding hair, right? She didn't have the skills that the market required. Came to us, has been working at Old Mutual for a few years, also advancing in her career. Every single woman who's come through our doors has a story that inspires me, right? And I think we can share all of those. So, in closing, I want us to think about, I just want to wrap up by saying, we're going to go out, we're going to think about these barriers, we're going to work to address them, we're going to work to share our stories. We're going to do it together, right? So I've shared with you what I think. Please, come talk to me. Tell me what I got wrong. Tell me what I got right. Tell me what I missed. We need to continue the conversation, and then we need to figure out what we're going to do to solve these problems and go out and do it together. Thank you very much.